Welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. In this episode, we'll be listening to 10 concepts and practices to bolster your financial literacy, a session that was presented at Children's Institute 2025 in Portland, Oregon.
Morning, everybody. For the folks on the right-hand side of the room, I am here. You may not be able to see me, but I am here. I'm Susanna Hermans. I'm moderating today. And first of all, I want to thank our lead sponsor of Ingram for making this all possible for us. And we have a lot to cover because they named this session 10 concepts. So we are going to give you 10 concepts today. So we're going to get right to it.
Can we shut a couple of the doors?
Yeah, maybe could someone close the door?
Maybe just the front ones here.
Cool. So first of all, I want to thank you all for choosing the finance session over the much more fun session happening across the hallway. But we're going to try to make this as fun as possible and as not anxiety-inducing as possible in hopes that you can walk away from this feeling confident to tackle one of these in your own business when you get home. We have an amazing panel of experts up here, but I think the one thing to take away is all of us are still learning every single day in the work that we do. There's no exactly perfect way to do this stuff. We just want to give you some core ideas that can help you demystify and hopefully make your business a little more financially stable for the long term. So click my thing. We've got some housekeeping. I think we want to remind folks silence their cell phones. There's a mic at the front for questions. We are going to try to get to a Q&A at the end. We may run out of time, but I'm sure folks at this table can stick around for a few minutes if you all have questions for us. Antitrust guidelines, I think most people know that. So especially in a finance session, we want to remind folks that we can't really talk about any of these things, but there's still loads that we can. Okay. This is us. Okay, so let's present ourselves. I'm Susanna Hermans. I'm the co-owner of Oblong Books. We have 2 stores in New York's Hudson Valley, and our stores are about 3,500 square feet. Zach?
I'm Zach Metelsky. I am general manager of McLennan Aiken Booksellers, and the Archives, our brand new used bookstore. Our main bookstore is about 4,000 square feet selling space, and the Archives is 1,000 square feet just for used.
Nice. I'm Paul Hansen with Village Books and Paper Dreams. I'm sorry about the photo. It was the best one I could find. Right. Undercover finance guy. We have 2 locations. One is 15,000 square feet, 5,000 for our gift store and 10,000 for our bookstore. And our second location is 3,500 square feet. So we're able to see different levels of scale, which is nice. I think that's about it. Okay.
I'm Jenny Cohen. My husband and I own Wacoma Bookstore in beautiful Hood River, Oregon. It's about an hour and 15 minutes from here. We're a general store, and our store is the selling space is about 1,500 square feet.
Beautiful. So Jenny, I want to start with you. What words of general advice do you have to booksellers in the room to help us all feel a little bit more confident?
Learn every day. There's nothing wrong. I think you said that already. To be more confident, there's no wrong question. If you can't answer the question, look to one of your peers or maybe someone in the community that can help you. I think that's the biggest thing I get out of that. You might not know it, but somebody you know will know it.
Absolutely. How about you, Paul?
And what am I answering?
Just words of advice, encouragement.
Words of advice, encouragement. Be curious and open. And one of the things that served me really well is to look at the numbers in a strategic way to solve problems. Or to answer questions. So if you've got something you're wondering about your business, is this performing well? I'm not sure. Mine your data to give a data-informed decision about it. And the more you do that, the better you get and the more literate you get.
Beautiful. Zach, any words of advice?
Yeah, I have a couple things really quickly. I would encourage everybody to create like an on fire list of things you want to measure. Trying to understand all of it at once is going to be totally overwhelming. So make sure you know what you're trying to measure. And then to tack onto what Jenny said, I would say everybody in this room has two resources. You have your point of sale vendor, who absolutely has reports for probably everything you want to measure, and your regional association. I'm the treasurer of GLIBA, and I would love to help with anybody who has questions. And I'm sure your regional association would also have be able to crowdsource any answer that you're looking for. So
that's great. I hadn't thought about that. Excellent. So before we get to our tips, let's share a little bit about our personal journeys with finance in our businesses. Maybe a biggest aha moment when you first started managing at your store, managing your finances? Jenny?
I'm going to back up and give a little personal history. Prior to being a bookseller, I was a financial analyst at the government agency. And then no longer. I did taxes, so I was an enrolled agent and licensed tax consultant in Oregon. So my aha moment was more of because I didn't know the industry. And as we bought the store and we were doing inventory for the store to figure out how much we were going to pay for inventory, I learned that we were paying too much because the owner offered it at a certain percentage, and that's not really what she bought the books at. So I was like, oh, there's other things going on here that I need to learn more about the industry to really get my head around bookstore finances.
Paul?
Actually, why don't you go next?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember my aha moment.
Sure.
Yes.
I had many small aha moments when I started doing the finances for the bookstore. I would say mine was discovering how much of our store is seasonal. We're in Petoskey, Michigan, which is on Lake Michigan, and it's like hyper seasonal. Our town grows by about 100% in the summertime. But that in numbers means that we lose money probably 6 months out of the year. So learning that, knowing that we need to tighten up in those months, and learning, how do we adjust for that when we actually have people in the store to sell to? So I would say tracking daily sales was one of the biggest things for me.
That's great. Paul?
I think my aha moment came when I finally had more of a global understanding about the business. I remember one year our owner, it was Christmas time, and he was obsessively looking at the sales per day to see how the store was performing. And number one, get out from behind the desk and sell some books, and you'll have a better Christmas than looking at how the numbers are going. But that realization that one day of performance isn't a thing. Sales is not an indicator of success. One single number is not an indicator of success in your business. It's how they all fit relationally and as a percentage to each other. And I think COVID really illustrated that for us when everything shrank, but it was still, the percentages moved around, but as long as they were in a healthy way and we could use that for our planning and our budgeting in a world that made no sense and had no budget anymore, that allowed us to stay healthy. And I think that was the COVID time was a really big aha moment for me to be able to see that.
Yeah.
We can still be successful when everything shrank.
Yeah. Would anybody up here like to share a big mistake that they made and learned from?
Not doing returns sooner. I didn't really know about returns since I was new to the industry, and as I got to know the store more, I had learned that they didn't really do returns. They only did hardcover returns at Ingram, so I had bought inventory that was dead stock, and so learning how to do that and coming up with the way to work it into our seasonality, because we're always also a tourist store, that was a big thing. Like, I wish I had done that sooner or known about that so I could have negotiated that earlier.
Mm-hmm. Funny, our mistake was returns related as well. We were going through a remodel and we doubled in size, and I had the bright idea, let's just not do returns for a year so that our inventory grows to fill it rather than buying new stuff to fill it. That actually, it was about 2 years, and it took us a while to recover from that, because then we had a lot of stock that just wasn't moving, and that was dumb. And I wish I had not done that, but I learned from it, so I'm glad I did that.
I would say a mistake for us, probably not getting into used books and remainders sooner. Knowing, we've always done remainders in a small way, and we started doing used about a year ago, and it has worked so well that we opened our own store. And it's a huge margin booster. So just knowing those are available to you when you need some help in your margins.
Great. So our first tip is your finance basics. Zach, do you want to talk a little bit about?
Sure. Okay, so let me pull up this slide. Finance basics. Okay, so I have a couple things I wanted to talk about. First of which is knowing your profit and loss statement. If you don't have a P&L that you're tracking, I would highly encourage you to use some of the resources available on BookWeb. They have blank P&Ls that you can start to fill out. And one of the things I wanted to share about this was we use P&Ls for a lot of things, but this year I instituted a simple P&L for our events coordinator. We have been tracking events over the past few years and learned that we basically lose money every event that we host, and because we're so far off the beaten path, we rarely get big authors, kind of like sellout showstopper authors. So that's a hard thing to explain to somebody who's so passionate about events. So the way I was trying to teach her was I was like, okay, we're going to have a profit and loss statement for every in-store event we do this summer. When the author comes in, we're going to track labor, we're going to track sales, and we're going to track returns labor. And it was an easy way for me to illustrate to her, labor is expensive, and if you spend so much time working on these small, signings, we're going to lose money. So it just helped reframe author events in general for our events coordinator. And actually this summer, we've already had some profitable events because of it, which is really fun. So that's a tip I would share.
That's great. Anyone else have something they want to say about this one?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Okay. I was trying to give a polite pause, but not to put you on the spot.
Let's put some definitions too for us.
This goes back to, thank you, Zach. The same thing I was saying before, using the data to make informed decisions. We had and we do the P&L for areas that it is measurable, and actually that's illustrative. If it's an area that you can't measure, then maybe you need to start creating the data so you can measure it, if you're wondering about it. Like our used books. We have used books, we carry them for philosophical reasons. It's a small percentage of our sales, but it's also really resource heavy. But we're not tracking how much time people are spending doing that, so we don't really have a way to know how that's measuring up for a profit and loss. For an offsite event, miles and miles and miles away, a women's group would invite us to come give a book talk, which was great. It was something that we inherited. It was a great goodwill gesture. It took a heck of a lot of time to put all those books together, to go out and do the sales. And we were owners, so it didn't really come off the payroll, but it was our time valuable. So we still quantified that. So it just felt like it was onerous. But we needed to measure it to see exactly how onerous it was. And so one year when they called us, they said, "We'd like to invite you back again." We said, "Okay, let me look at this." And we figured out that we needed to sell this number of books in order to make it worth our while. And what we usually sold was half of that. So we told them, said, "We'd be happy to come. This is how many we need to sell. And if we can't sell that, then we need you to pay us the difference." And they said, "Thank you. We'll talk about it." And they never invited us. So essentially, they enjoyed us as a free act and dog and pony show, and not actually buying the books to justify it. But we had the data to be able to justify the time that we put into it.
So speaking of using data to make informed decisions, which is what all this is all about, let's talk about Abacus. So I'm not to put anybody on the spot. How many of you all have ever reported to Abacus? Okay, great. How many of you have done it for this year already? Awesome. That's great. So the deadline has been extended to June 21st. So you will have some time when you get home. Would folks share, anyone who has used Abacus to make an improvement in your business, / also share how easy it is to do?
I would just plug for Abacus. We use it every single year. They give you, when you get your report back, it's got basically like the key KPIs that you are doing really well in or you're doing really poor in, and it will help you kind of reset your mind frame for the upcoming year. And like, what do we need to focus on? Am I spending too much on labor? Is my cost of goods not good enough? It really does help understand where you sit among your peers. I think it's amazing.
I'm just going to define, if you don't know what KPI is, it's key performance indicator.
Thank you, Jenny.
I do Abacus and then some, but I always take it also a little bit with a grain of salt because what I do in my store is not exactly the same as other stores. So I do look at how well we're doing against other stores, but I always remind myself, like, my Abacus, I'm probably oversharing, doesn't look like I have a profit at all. It looks like I have a little loss or I made zero money, but that's because we bonus out to our employees and to ourselves. So we have zero profit, so we don't have to pay taxes. And if you don't understand that concept, talk to your tax accountant. So it helps me gauge how we're doing against everyone else, but it always shows that I'm not making money.
Yeah. And one takeaway that I had in last year's Abacus was, I pay people more money than my fellow bookstores, but I also have like way less turnover. And that made me feel good. That was like a little pat on the back.
Right.
See, sometimes you see like, I'm good at this, and here's why.
Yeah. There's we do Abacus every year, and one of the things that we really pay close attention to is the payroll to see if we are really getting out of whack. And usually we're right in the range somewhere in there. And if we're not, then we look at the reasons why. Is this a conscious decision? Is this because of our region? Whatever. It's been recently going up as a percentage to sales. And we're thinking, are we doing something wrong? And seeing that the other stores, they're all kind of rising up. So, okay, we're still in line with what the industry is doing. It also served us really well when we were about to open our second location, which, as you heard, was much smaller than the location that we have. But we're able to use the Abacus numbers and also our numbers and just dividing it by 10, essentially, and using that and the stores that are that size as a comparable to use a business plan to decide how to plan for that opening of that second location.
So I'd say make an appointment on your calendar to go home and do Abacus. It took us about 2 hours of two of us working together on it. It's not insurmountable, I promise.
And they offer lots of help. So if you're not familiar with what you should be putting in there, you can make an appointment with, I think the company has people that can help you, and then someone on ABA staff can also help you if you can't figure out where to put stuff on the line items for Abacus.
And your point of sale vendor, again, they probably have already done this for somebody. They have the reports. You just need to talk to them.
Great. Okay, so next tip, reviewing daily sales, which we talked a little bit about, and comparing them to the date of the year prior. Jenny, tell us about what you do.
Because my husband and I are really nerdy, we have this huge Excel sheet that shows, we enter all our daily sheets in there, so I can go back to any day or month the prior year to see how we're doing. But again, I also take it with what was going on there. We also record, was there construction? Did they close the street? What kind of weather was it? Was there wildfire smoke? Did everyone stay home? Things like that help us show that influx of sales, or maybe why we didn't do so well, but also did we have a Jan Brett event this December, and that December is huge, or did we ship a bunch of signed copies for a local author? So we make note of that on our sheets, and then we have this pretty graph that does all these things that is nice to look at.
Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
I was just going to say, we do a very similar thing. The other thing that we keep track of is things I call unicorn sales. If somebody comes in and buys $800 worth of books, I make sure to note that. So I'm not looking at last year and going, how am I ever going to get to that number? Or why am I doing so poorly this time when last time we did so well? So B2Bs and unicorn sales we keep track of as well.
Totally. Great. Cash flow management. Now, this is a great topic. So yesterday, who went to the cash flow session yesterday? A couple of us did. So there was a 2-hour cash flow session yesterday that got recorded. So I would highly recommend listening to that when you get home and it's up online. Who wants to talk about cash flow? Not Paul.
Let's talk about how dead and quiet it is in the winter. Right? You have this also, Zach. So for us, for cash flow, it's kind of hand in hand with our returns and what time of year it is, and how much inventory we have in the store. It's really quiet in January, February, and March. April might pick up. So we're pretty cash poor. So we make sure that we're strategic about our returns and our co-op credits, and that we're using those in an efficient way to cover paying bills. Also, dating kind of plays into that. I think there's knowing the dating that you have with your publishers will help with that. But also on the front end, knowing what my credit limit is, or having a credit limit discussion, because we buy so heavy going into the holidays, that really makes a difference in our cash flow also.
What's better, more points or dating?
I will be happy to talk about cash flow in relation to that question. So the reason she said Paul doesn't want to talk about cash flow is because honestly, I don't pay attention to cash flow because our business is in a state where I don't need to, which I realize is not the answer for everybody. As owners, it was our philosophy at the outset to build a rainy day fund, which served us really well during COVID. And so we have enough cash so that we don't have to pay attention to cash flow necessarily, because we've done it really hard at the beginning. So that means when it comes to a question of dating versus points or percentage, we always go for points and percentage because we're in a position to be able to. So if you don't have to worry about cash flow, then pay early, get the points, or do whatever you can to get a better percentage to increase your margin.
I would just quick plug Batch for cash flow, for knowing what bills are coming due and knowing all the credits you have available to help you with those bills. And I would agree with Paul that paying ahead can make a huge difference. Pay when you have the money, not when you don't.
I would also have a rainy day fund for it. I guess it depends if you have a lease or you own your own building, because if something happens, that will make a dent in your cash flow. If you're responsible in your lease for something specific and your landlord's not going to cover it, it would be good to maybe stash away a little bit of money every month if you can afford to into a fund for something like that.
I have small little pieces of advice. They might sound basic, but they are related to cash flow. One is always pay first the people who can close your doors, your landlord and taxes. Always pay those. It's basic, but some people don't. And oh my God, I was just gonna. It was tacked on to what you were just saying, and I forgot. Oh my God, it's so important.
Well, while you're saying that, I will say that we have our checking account and our money market account, and we're constantly moving money back and forth because the money market is making a good interest rate. So, if you don't have money you have to touch today, putting it somewhere it's earning a little something is always good. All right. Well, you're going to figure it out later. We'll just throw it in when we get it.
They'll make you wait till the end.
So co-op is something that you either know about co-op or you're like, what's co-op? I'm scared, and it seems like too much to figure out. So I'm a big evangelist for co-op. Many publishers have moved to an automatic credit, which is fantastic, and I love it. So make sure you're enrolled with any possible program that your publishers offer. If you don't know what I'm talking about, email your sales reps and ask, what's your co-op deal?
I just thought of it.
Oh, great.
This was an aha, and I have, or not an aha, but a piece of advice from another store that was going through cash flow issues. And if they had a lot of publishers that they needed to pay, and it was getting overwhelming, if you're in a state where you're on the verge of getting on hold from a publisher, what they recommended was paying, like credit cards, pay off one at a time. And the one who you're the most dire with, pay them off so that you're not on hold. And then work your way through that. And that way you're not at risk with all of the publishers at the same time. there any publishers in the room? Thank you. So don't neglect the publishers. Pay them whenever you can. I would say that whether you're in the room or not. But spread that around.
I'm also a really big advocate of co-op. I was like one of the first things I learned from Patty, who's not like a very technical person. She was the previous bookkeeper, and she's still at the store. And the way she puts it is, you're basically leaving free money on the table because that's credits that you get back. And our co-op can be up as high as $20,000 to $25,000 a year. So it's worth your time to learn. Once you get it down, it really doesn't take that long.
Absolutely. Our co-op pays our whole salary for our event person, and then we still have like our advertising is always a negative on our end of year because of how much co-op we run.
That's something that's debatable. We won't talk about that. My father-in-law has an accountant, doesn't like that.
Question?
That is responsible for co-op, like for tracking all that stuff, for taking the picture of the display, or how do you handle that? Is that a marketing person, or is that another thing that falls under sort of your owner hat?
For me, it's me, for sure. I'm also like a big nerd who loves to share her info. So if anybody at the end, if you want me to send you all my co-op cheat sheets, just come and I'll give you my email address and you can send me a note. I'd happy to send that out. I think it's useful for it to be one person who's doing it.
I want those cheat sheets too. We have our operations person doing it. So we do have one person in charge. She does many other things, but she also is doing co-op.
We're a small store, so I'm very much everything owner. So I do it all, but my husband does the bookkeeping. So when I go through my Edelweiss orders and they have the like 5 for 25 or whatever, a certain number of books purchasing, I tag those in Edelweiss, print them out. Actually, no, I think it's an Excel form now. And then when he goes through every month and does QuickBooks, he has an idea because he has no idea. So just coming up with a reliable system that's consistent helps too. He often finds that he has to chase those credits sometimes, and just talk to your rep because you should be getting those credits regardless, and they'll take care of that.
Okay, inventory management. Such a critical piece of what we do. Zach, what do you got?
I will say a few things. On here it says plan for worst case scenario. Our bookkeeper is she's so awesome. She's a hard ass and she always gives us the worst case scenario, which is kind of scary at first, but the more and more I learn, the more I'm like, this is a useful tool for me, to know what potentially could happen if we don't pay our bills, or what potentially could happen if we're behind on our payments. And I will say the biggest thing that I keep track of is our delta of our bank account. So we keep track of how much money we have. This also relates to cash flow. How much money we have and how much money we will have after 90 days if we made zero money between now and then. And that's the number that I'm always looking at. The amount of money we have in our bank account doesn't mean anything if it's all going to be gone in 90 days. So I would say if you're not keeping track of that, I would definitely start doing that. Another thing that is not listed here is do an inventory in your store, whether it's every year or every other year. Knowing how much money you have in inventory is huge, and knowing the loss of your inventory is also huge. We live in an area where I was like, oh, we don't have to worry about that. There's no loss. We're in Petoskey, Michigan. There's nobody stealing from us. People are stealing from you. You should just get used to that and know how much they're stealing from you. And if you can find a way to stop it.
Great. Anybody else have?
Yeah, do inventory.
Yeah. We talked about returns.
Yeah.
Great. And I think this slide might be out of order.
We actually did, we do an annual inventory now, and I'm actually would advocate for a biannual inventory every twice a year. We do it once in January to clean up after the holidays and reset the store, and used to do it in September, October as well to get ready for the holidays. Less things you can't find, and also cleans it up. It was a good discipline. And if we had a point of sale system that had easier inventory, then we would do it twice a year.
Okay. Know your margins. Jenny.
Margins are so huge.
At least you want them to be.
Well, you want them to be, yes. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a difference between gross margin and like cost of goods sold. So cost of goods sold is really what you bought your inventory for. And then there's a profit after that. So I feel like Abacus is helpful for me also, knowing what my inventory is doing and like margin. Like we do on Abacus exceedingly very well with our margin on non-book stuff. And that took a while for us to play with. And then, you know, we're in one of these areas where it's like tourists are like, do you have used books? And I'm like, so we have a little bit of used books. It's not a ton, but the margin on that is huge. It really makes a difference for us. My goal is to make sure that our non-book covers all of our payroll. So that's kind of a indicator for me and makes it worth it. The more I can make money to pay my staff is, you know, and then I have other things to do with the other. That was a little convoluted, sorry.
Yeah, margins. It took me a while to think about gift buying and its margins different than book. Number one, it's a markup rather than a discount, and that just is another way of looking at it. And forgive me if I'm saying something that's obvious to gift buyers, but not all gifts have the same markup. Is that not obvious to everybody? It wasn't obvious to me. Okay, I won't even say more about it then.
No, say more. Say more about it.
So, for instance, games and puzzles. I know we can get a lot of those through a lot of our book vendors, so it is roughly double. But the jewelry is probably 3 times markup. Clothing is 3 times markup. Candy, food, that's probably about double. But they've all got different kind of industry standards for how much you are expected or can get away with marking it up. So be aware of that. Talk to other gift vendors and see how they're doing it. Talk to clothing stores and clothing store owners or jewelry store owners. And how much are they marking up items? And that will help your margin significantly across the board.
I would also say know how much of your sales are coming from non-book. This Abacus is good for this as well. I looked at our Abex report before we came here, and I saw that only 14% of our sales was gift, which I think it used to be around 20 and 25. So I knew that there was a problem from our last year's sales, and I know that that's affecting our cost of goods sold. So this year we front-loaded gift items before the summer, which actually helped in a bunch of ways, but and to try to increase the percentage of our gift sales this year. So, I would just say keep track of the percentage of your sales that are coming from book, non-book, and used. So you know where, if you need to increase your margin somewhere, you know those things, and you can try to do that.
And I'm probably sure most of you know this, but definitely calculate in if there was freight on your order. Calculate that in when you're choosing how to price your stuff.
Tariffs.
Yeah, and watch those tariffs. And free freight. Mm-hmm. Whenever possible, whenever there's a special for your gift vendors.
If you have the extra time, it's worth shopping around too. Between vendors, a lot of the vendors have very similar. Paul goes to the big Atlanta show, but you'll start seeing kind of the same sort of thing or kind of trends. And I learned this from my mom. She's a big shopper. Kind of see what's doing well and not, or is there another vendor that still has the same quality that I can get a better price at, so I have the same and a bigger margin.
Okay, tech. So this is where we have an advertisement for Batch because we are all fans of Batch. Who has signed up for Batch already? Okay, great. So about half the folks in the room. So Batch is free for booksellers. Think of it as Edelweiss for bill payment. It's one website where you can pay your vendors, and all 5 of the big 5 have signed on. We're still waiting. I think Simon is onboarding this summer and Hachette in 2026, which is going to be amazing. And a bunch of small presses are on there as well. Anyone want to talk about what they love about Batch?
Everyone sign up so we can get to the point that we can also do returns on Batch.
Mm-hmm.
Jenny, what does that mean, returns on batch?
So that means basically, so in the UK, they get everything on there. They can get their credits on there, not just pay bills, but they can also like pre-scan all their books into whatever their module is and say, I'm returning this to you. And so the publisher already gets that ahead of time. And then once they get it, it's like, you just get the credit. So it's none of this like guessing or trying to make something up or using your point of sale, but it's just going to be way more efficient for everybody's time, especially like, I went from a staff of like 12 people pre-pandemic, and there's like now 6, and that includes me and my husband. So anything to be more efficient.
Absolutely. It will save you time. It'll save your bookkeeper time. Yeah. Most of us, I think, use QuickBooks. Does anybody use anything that beside QuickBooks? Sage, okay.
We just converted from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Cloud.
Oh, I got to talk to you later. I want to know all about that.
And we're still converting. It was so painful.
That's why we haven't done it.
It was very painful. And I think it will be good eventually, but they're like 2 different programs.
Anybody have tech they love that they want to talk about?
This says scheduling programs. I would just quick plug When I Work or another, similar scheduling program. We used to do the Excel, print the schedules and have it at each counter so everybody knew their shifts, and it was a nightmare. When I Work allows you to do punch-ins. It allows you to do forecasting for labor costs. It allows you to, put in open shifts so that employees can pick up shifts. If you just need somebody for 4 hours on a Saturday, everybody gets a notification that says, hey, there's a shift you can pick up. It has been huge for us, and we use every feature of it. And it's pretty inexpensive as far as I can remember. Yeah, sorry. It's called When I Work, wheniwork.com. And I think they have a free version too that you can try it before you sign up, and then it's per employee pricing.
We use that as well. We've got 50 employees, and it's been in 2 locations, so it's helped immensely. And one of the things I love about it is that I used to do it in Excel as well, and trying to keep track of the hours per day and hours per week for budgetary reasons was a nightmare of data tracking to try to do myself in Excel. And When I Work, it's got it right there. It adds it all up, so you're able to if you want to keep payroll under control, the way you do that is by hours and budgeting that out.
How do you decide whether it's worth paying for a software?
I would do it as a labor percentage. I mean, I was spending so much time building the schedule in Excel. And not only that, after I printed it, there would inevitably be somebody who's like, hey, you scheduled me on a day that I asked for off, which means I have to go through and change it and reprint it for every counter. It was a no-brainer for me to be able to put this out there, and everybody gets a notification on their phone in the app that says your schedule has been posted. If there's a change to the schedule, you get a notification that says, hey, your shift has changed. It saved me a ton of time. I think we do have a question back there.
Yes. So just a quick question. Does it have the ability for them to like punch in and clock their time?
It does.
It's very easy, like on their phone, like it's easy.
Yeah, you can customize how you want it done. Either they can do it on their phone, or you can have it as a physical terminal that they have to do it at location. We've opted for, once you get into the store, you have to do it at one of the terminals. You can't do it on your phone because that is space to be able to abuse it. Oh, I'm 5 minutes late, but I'm in the parking lot. I'm going to clock in now. So it has to be actually in the store to clock in. But yes.
I feel like you just saved me like 30 hours of my life.
Linda? Oh, wait for the mic. Sorry.
Sorry, we use When I Work too, and we love it, Pages in Manhattan Beach. But we don't use the clocking in because we do our payroll through ADP. Do you do payroll through When I Work, or do you have an interface with your payroll in When I Work?
We have our payroll through QuickBooks, and we do that in store.
So when people clock their hours and When I Work, it talks
at the
to
end of the pay period. We run the report and use that and you can export that and import it into QuickBooks.
Thank you.
Great. So integrations are available.
I would also say integrations can sometimes cost money, and since like I'm a small store, and I run the payroll, I just print the reports, like the pieces of paper. I'm only doing it for, 4 to 6 people, and just hand key it into we also have QuickBooks Online payroll, but I only have QuickBooks Online payroll, not online QuickBooks. So whatever, we couldn't justify paying to import when it was easy for us.
Maybe this is a if it's not broke, don't fix it thing, but I've been using Gusto because they do for scheduling and for payroll. It's all connected and it works well for us. Is there a reason why, like if you were to compare the two, because I've actually never heard of When I Work. I don't have a good reason to feel like I need to switch, but I'm curious if there's something I'm missing.
I'm not familiar with Gusto.
Neither am I.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I looked at it when we had considered doing it because all these, you have a credit card with one bank or, just like store buying credit card. And then you have your credit cards that you do like the credit card processing. And they all want to get us to sign up for something. And one of them wanted us to get signed up with their payroll processing and their time. But once we ran the numbers, it wasn't worth it for us to move. So, each store is individually different. So if it's working for you now, unless you have a huge cost savings, maybe it might not be worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. For us, When I Work was better than pencil and paper.
Question on the converting from the good old spreadsheet. We have a wide range of ages and comfortability with tech. And so using it for the clocking in and then also getting notifications, that's one of our concerns of moving into using a tool for that. And I'm curious what that experience of changing might have been like and how you worked with your staff to get everybody hopefully on board.
It was, we also have a pretty wide range of tech friendly usability. I would say it was a little painful, but it wasn't that bad. We installed When I Work, or we use the bookmark on every terminal we have in the store. So all you have to do is click to, it's like, if you have a email login, it's that easy. You just click and log in. And then you can just see the schedule as a whole. I would say it gets tricky when people need to request time off and they don't know how to use it. But our staff is 16. So I would just sit down and walk them through it. But it probably took 6 months before everybody was like, okay, I understand how to do this now. I understand how this works. And the interface from an admin and someone who's just using it to see their schedule is vastly different. It is very basic for someone that just wants to look at their schedule and see what shifts they're scheduled for and see who else they'll be working with. It's like one button and it's just a calendar view.
We still use, we use When I Work. So Patty, who taught me co-op, she works 1 day a week. We had to install a point of sale system when we took over our store. It's been around since 1976 and we took it over in 2008 and did not have a point of sale system. So she literally learned how to copy and paste. So it's getting to their level. And so for some of my folks, they still like paper. We'll still do the schedule on When I Work, but there's an option to print it out as a PDF. And we email them to those folks that want to have that paper copy.
So next topic is keep doing sort of audits every year, every couple of years. I know for my own store, I should do it more often. I probably do it more like every 5 years, but like we have multiple phone lines. Like, are you still paying for a fax line? Do you have a phone company that you have to call them every 2 years and ask them to re-up you for the deal that they have? Or they'll just, all of a sudden your phone bill is bigger. For our POS vendor, I did a big audit where I'm like, okay, what are we paying for every month? I'm paying extra to insure this receipt printer. Well, then we don't have that receipt printer anymore. All those little things that add up. Anybody else got more on that? All right.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Ooh, recommendations for auditing your credit card processor.
Yes and no. We kind of see what they are offering us, and then we go to the ABA's one, which we usually default to because it's been the best deal so far. There's a whole spreadsheet that my husband does So if you're really nerdy, he does all the percentage points and the different credit cards, and he does it, I think, once or twice or every couple of years. But the fact that you're shopping around is probably the best, but also consider the equipment. Are they going to give you that equipment for free? Are you going to have to pay for that equipment? Is it better to go with a certain company and then get a deal somewhere else or buy a second hand for the equipment? That's kind of how we look at it. Because there's not really a simple answer with all the different cards and fees. Mm-hmm. But if you're in a state where you can advocate for, I think they had some folks fly out to DC. They had folks fly out to DC. Definitely, like if you are able to advocate and show how it can save your business money, go advocate and talk to all the folks that are trying to push legislation through.
We should probably audit our credit cards more often, and we would probably be able to get a better rate, as what we do is we do it opportunistically. So we're just about to upgrade something, and this is an opportunity to now assess whether, because we can't change 12 credit card machines every year because we've got a new vendor. So we do it as we need to every few years or so.
We use 2 different vendors because I can't always use, depending on what equipment's available, because we're a smaller store, I'll use Square offsite. So to us, that flexibility is worth paying for Square for the few times that we're doing it. Or like we're in a rural area and every year, without fail, the internet goes out, something big happens, and having that as an extra option is nice. So kind of balancing out what are your needs, like is for us as a small store, we need that backup.
So planning for growth. Zach, tell us what you've gone through.
Yeah, so I just have this is the picture of the front of our new store, the Archives. It's a story of starting small. So we have never sold used books in the past, and it's something that I've been kind of secretly and passionately working on in the background for like 5 years. So we have had a space in our store that was basically a dead space that people didn't shop in. It was just filled with whatever extra event copies or whatever we had sitting around. And I thought, I'm going to try this small. So we started bringing in used books and we buy them from our customers. So I like reached out to some of our best customers and said, hey, I want to try this thing. And they started bringing in books, and I started putting them on that shelf and not advertising it and just kind of leaving it there to see if people would shop there. And people started finding it. And so we started selling, we had space for about 800 books in our main store. And I think that inventory turned 4 times in the first 6 months. Like people really liked it. People started showing up weekly just to check what was in our inventory there. And people started learning like, hey, they have this space in their basement where they have used books. And it worked so well that a spot up the street opened, this 1,000 square foot space that was a sunglass store that the rent is a little expensive, but I was like, we're going to try it. And we opened 3 weeks ago, and it's been about 14% of our sales so far. Wow. 13 to 14% of our sales is coming from the used books. But I never, ever would have done that if I hadn't tried it in a small way in our store first. So this is just, a thing for start small, try anything, but do it on a small scale to see if your customer base and your community will like it first. In this case, it worked out really well, and we'll see how the summer goes. But I think it's going to be a hit.
Nice.
Okay, accountants and bookkeepers. To hire or not to hire?
Hire. It is so much more expensive to fix a mistake. Especially, find someone that you trust. We do our bookkeeping in-house. My husband does it. But when I was working for my father-in-law at the tax office, it was the QuickBook reports that would come in that were just a mess. Were just you're paying us more money. You're paying us more money. So if you can get your reporting streamlined to a point that you also have a good tax accountant, it is worth doing. Also, on having a good tax accounting, they can also have your business side and your personal side. And when those have to cross over and you have to make financial decisions, it's really nice to have that person. I can't advocate more for that. It's worth the money.
I would definitely say higher. We've had the same bookkeeper for like 12 years, and I learned all I know about bookstore financing from her. And we meet like every single week and talk about what's happening in the store, what should we be paying attention to, what bills are coming up, how much is batched this month, all of that stuff. And I think it's one of the best things you can invest in.
But we got to watch out, right, Paul?
Yeah, you got to watch out. We have because of just retirement and COVID, we actually have gone through like 5 bookkeepers in the past 10 years, which is a painful process, but also a very enlightening process. The best practices for bookkeeping and accountants. Number one, we have a accountant offsite that it's an accounting firm that we send the numbers to. And that's the deep dive. That's the taxes. For the day-to-day, we have a bookkeeper. And then we also have an accounts payable person. And I highly recommend having a different person who issues the checks, be different from the person who signs the checks, be a different person who is tracking the information. So having those checks and balances in place is really important, because bookkeeping is the place where the easiest place to steal money from your organization. So, and have a really good reporting system. We have our bookkeeper keeps track of all the stuff that comes in and then provides me with a report. Then I take all those numbers and I put them somewhere else. I look at every single percentage and the expenses and income that we have, and I track that in a different way. And by going through that discipline, I can see when there's outliers. And then I can go back and say, okay, this number is higher or lower than I expected. Can you tell me why? And then you go through and you look at the paths, and where those paths go, you either see where there's breakdowns in how you're tracking that information, or potentiality for shrink or loss or abuse at some point. And 99 times out of 100, it's just error that you're keeping the good discipline in place and keeping your data stream clear. But that's also a place where you'll see if somebody's taking money from you.
Bonus points if a bookkeeper understands bookselling, because sometimes I feel like I'm explaining things to my father-in-law of why we do things a certain way and why it's this way. I mean, they don't have to. I mean, a good bookkeeper will make sure that your books are nice and clean. And oftentimes people want that bookkeeper. So find them and keep them if you have a good one.
And if a bookkeeper isn't available to you in this moment, some options are a QuickBooks 101 class, an accounting course. The Professional Bookselling School has a finance course you can take, LinkedIn Learning, or just ask your fellow booksellers. Mm-hmm. Ask ABA. They have a lot of tools available on their website for free.
We're in a position where we have a full-time bookseller or a bookkeeper on staff as a part of our payroll. But there are bookkeepers that they might come in they have a lot of different clients, and maybe they just come in once a week for you. And so it's something that is scalable according to the size of your business and what you can afford.
Yeah. So we have about 7 minutes left for questions. Just wait for the mic if you would. Yeah, right here.
Hello. Can you hear me? Okay. So I have a very bookseller question for you. I recently took over ownership of a store, and we inherited a bookkeeper, and through a whole dramatic saga, it didn't go well. And so now I'm actually taking over the bookkeeping, and while it's really fun to learn, it's been hard to find books that can help. And I'm curious if any of you have book recommendations for any of the accounting, bookkeeping, any of that.
That's a great question.
I don't have any books.
I've been looking into this too, because I'm also learning to take. We have a bookkeeper, but I'm the torch is passing from my dad to me in the store. And I'm, he's been running our bookkeeping on Vibes for like 50 years. So I'm trying to figure out, and he's done great. So I don't want to mess with his system, but I need to learn what it is. So I've also been looking for those books, and I've had trouble finding them.
And it's a great exercise to be able to do that. And I don't want to put myself in your shoes and tell you how to run your business, because those transitions between bookkeepers gave me the opportunity to step into QuickBooks and realize I don't want to do that. But it also got me conversant enough to be able to see how the reporting and how the tracking is happening, so that when we have a bookkeeper, I know what they're talking about and I have a much better sense about it. So that's a great discipline, but I personally would advocate that that's not sustainable.
There is a book that I've read, and I cannot remember what it's called, and I was just going to look it up, and there's no way I'm going to be able to do it on the spot. But come see me, and I'll give you my card, and I'll find it. And it's like a 100-page book that explains all of bookstore financing. Like it has the turns definition and how you calculate turns. It has, and I think it's like a little print on demand from Ingram.
With the green cover.
Yes.
It's like the math of book selling or something.
Totally.
Mir has that.
Oh, he does. Yeah. I have it at home. I can take a photo of it and send it to you. I just can't remember what it's called.
Nice. And it's not a fake book.
No.
Right. Okay.
It's a real book.
I think if you can get the basics of debits and credits and where your accounts are. So even though I had a finance background, I had never really worked with QuickBooks. So sitting down with Patty and seeing how she did it, and then figuring out what I could make better with it. You might not have that opportunity, but maybe there's a helpful bookseller in your area that might be willing to show you kind of what they do. Sorry. And that's helpful, because the debits and credits can get confusing if you don't know that, if you're not logging it into your QuickBooks or your accounting software the right way. And if you do it yourself, you can also hire a bookkeeper just to audit you at the end of the year or give you tips. So Patty, it wasn't her forte. She used to own an orchard. She did all of her accounting on paper prior to the bookstore. And so her daughter's friend was a bookkeeper, and she would just, anytime she had an issue, she would call Raina and be like, can you help me out with this? So if you can also, there's bookkeepers out there that are willing to do that.
I remember I was just remembering when we first bought the stores in 2017, the founders of the store asked us what our biggest fear was. And our biggest fear was the books, the money and the numbers. And it's like, this is really overwhelming to us. We don't even know what we don't know. We don't know what questions to ask. Even though I've been tracking bookstore finances for a very long time, this felt like it was at a different level. And the resources that helped, number one, our accountant was very patient with us, but also the Small Business Administration. We just met with them. That's a free service, and they walked us through the balance sheet and through the P&L and what each of the numbers were. And that was a wonderful, wonderful resource until we got more comfortable with how to read these reports and where that's coming from and what the numbers mean.
The book is called The Mathematics of Bookselling by Leonard Shoskin. It came out in 1997, and I think it's still relevant.
Cool. Any more questions? We've just shocked you into horror. Well, we're all about out of time, so I will say parting words. Anyone have parting words? My parting words would be, you're going to make an appointment with yourself to sit down and do abacus. And if you're not on batch, you're going to go talk to Nathan before the end of the day tomorrow. He is here. He has a table.
I would say, again, use your regional association. That's what they're there for. Talk to your friends. They would love to help. I would love to help if anybody's in GLIBA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ask them for help.
Network with lots of people while you're here, because there's been more than once where I can just reach out to a bookseller I know.
Yeah.
Just a plug, there is also both a long class and a short class from the bookselling school on this as well, which I didn't end up taking all of it, but it really helped me get started and be way less scared.
Since this is being recording, what Hannah said is There's a long class and a short class for finances with a professional book selling school. So you should definitely look into that and can help you get started.
My parting words of semi-wisdom: start small. If there's, just start with one report and look at it consistently. We talked about flash reports, and that's a great thing for a flash. But then over time, you'll see, what are you curious about? Do you have the data to be able to track, to be able to answer this question about your business? And if so, if you don't, then what report can you generate to get that? And if you need to start tracking data, then start incorporating that into your discipline, and start small, learn that one report, and then move to another one. And the more you do it, the more conversant, the more fun Excel becomes, and you create those own reports yourself. It's just,
or you don't necessarily need to create it yourself. You can just say, "Hey, friend,
yeah,
do you have a report that you use for this?"
That's right. Find the joy in the numbers.
Yeah. Okay, now
All
we
right.
get to cheer as loud as they
That's
do.
right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA site at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!